Everyone called her ugly, but the richest woman in Lagos was about to lose everything for love. But the twist? He was just a poor market trader. Subscribe to the Roots of African Tales for stories that prove true. Wealth has nothing to do with money. Let's begin. The sound of her cousin's laughter echoed through the marble halls of the mansion, each giggle like a dagger to Ruby's heart. She pressed her back against the cold wall, her hand instinctively covering her scarred left eye, the eye that had been blind since birth, making half her face droop in a way that made people look away in disgust. "Did you hear? Ruby is 32 now and still no husband," her cousin Kemi's voice carried from the parlor. "Father says even with all her money, no man wants to wake up to that face every morning." Ruby's good eye filled with tears, but she refused to let them fall. Not again. She was the CEO of Okafor Industries, the largest textile company in Nigeria, worth millions of dollars. She could buy and sell these people who mocked her, yet she couldn't buy the one thing she desperately wanted: love. Her phone buzzed. Another text from her mother. "The Adebayo family has a son. He's willing to meet you. Don't embarrass us this time." Don't embarrass us. As if her face wasn't embarrassment enough. Ruby sat across from Chidi Adebayo at the expensive restaurant her mother had chosen. He was handsome in the way that made waitresses stumble over themselves, but his eyes held the coldness of calculated greed. "So, Ruby," he said, not even trying to hide his disgust as he looked at her face, "I hear your company is worth quite a lot." "Yes, it is." Her voice was steady, professional. She had learned long ago not to show weakness. "Good. My family has some debts, nothing a rich wife couldn't handle." He smiled, but it looked more like a sneer. "I'm willing to overlook certain things for the right price." Ruby's heart shattered, but she kept her expression neutral. "I see. The wedding can be next month. My mother has already started planning." He leaned back, confident. "Don't worry. I won't expect much from you as a wife. I have other women for other needs." That night, Ruby sat in her garden, staring at the stars with her one good eye. The engagement ring felt like a chain on her finger. Tomorrow, she would announce her engagement to a man who saw her as nothing more than a walking bank account. "Why did you make me like this?" she whispered to the heavens. "Why am I so unlovable?" But fate, it seemed, had other plans. 2 weeks before her wedding, Ruby was rushing to a business meeting when disaster struck. Her purse strap broke, sending her laptop, documents, and a small jewelry box containing her grandmother's precious emerald necklace scattering across the busy Lagos street. People stepped around her, some pointing and whispering about the ugly rich woman. Tears of humiliation burned her eye as she scrambled to collect her things. Then, gentle hands appeared beside hers. "Please, let me help you." The voice was deep, kind. Ruby looked up to see a man crouched beside her, carefully gathering her scattered papers. He was devastatingly handsome, tall, with strong shoulders and kind eyes that seemed to hold starlight. But what shocked her most was that he was looking directly at her face without flinching, without disgust. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "You're welcome." He smiled, and it was the first genuine smile anyone had given her in years. "I'm Zion. I sell fabrics at the market." "Ruby." She expected him to recognize her name, to suddenly become interested in her money. But his expression didn't change. "Beautiful name," he said simply. "It means eternal in Sanskrit, doesn't it?" She blinked in surprise. A market trader who knew Sanskrit meanings? Zion handed her the jewelry box, but as he did, his fingers brushed hers. The touch sent electricity through her entire body, something she had never felt before. "This looks important," he said, not knowing he held her grandmother's most precious possession. "Very important." Thank you so much." As she stood to leave, Zion called out, "Ruby, your smile? It's beautiful. Don't hide it." For the first time in her life, Ruby felt beautiful. She couldn't stop thinking about him. For days, she found excuses to drive past the fabric market, hoping for another glimpse of the man who had shown her kindness without expecting anything in return. Finally, she worked up the courage to visit his stall. "Ruby!" Zion's face lit up when he saw her. "What brings you to my humble corner of the world?" I wanted to thank you again. And maybe buy some fabric?" They spent hours talking. Zion showed her fabrics from across Africa, each one with a story, a purpose. His passion was magnetic. "My mother was a weaver," he said. "She taught me that every thread has meaning. She passed when I was 16. I've raised my sister since." Ruby's heart softened. Despite his losses, he still carried so much kindness. "What about you?" he asked. She opened up, about her company, her loneliness, the pressure to marry, but not about Chidi, not yet. "You run Okafor Industries?" Zion blinked. "I've been trying to pitch to your team for months. I have designs that could change the industry." "Show me." He unrolled a worn portfolio, bold patterns, smart techniques, beautiful work. "These are incredible," Ruby whispered. "Would you like to have dinner? To talk business?" Zion smiled wide. "I'd love that." Their business dinner lasted until dawn. They talked about everything: dreams, fears, hopes for the future. Zion told her about his sister Asha, who was studying medicine but struggling to pay for school. Ruby shared her vision of making African fashion globally recognized. "You're not what I expected," Zion said as they walked along the beach, watching the sunrise. "You mean because I'm ugly?" The words slipped out before she could stop them. Zion stopped walking. He turned to face her, his expression serious. "Ruby, look at me." Reluctantly, she met his eyes. "You are not ugly. You are different, yes, unique. But when you smile, when you talk about something you're passionate about, you glow. You have the most beautiful heart I've ever encountered." Tears streamed down her face. "No one has ever said that to me." "Then no one has ever really seen you." He gently wiped her tears away. "I see you, Ruby. All of you. And what I see is magnificent." Their secret relationship blossomed over the following weeks. Zion would pick her up after work, and they would drive to hidden corners of Lagos where no one knew who she was. Ruby had never been happier. But happiness, she learned, was fragile. "Where have you been disappearing to?" Chidi demanded one evening, cornering her in her office. "People are starting to talk." "I've been working," Ruby lied. "Don't lie to me." His voice turned dangerous. "You're my fiancé now. Your reputation affects mine." The way he said fiancé made her skin crawl. How had she ever agreed to this? "Chidi, I need to tell you something. Whatever it is can wait. The wedding is in 1 week. My family has already spent the dowry money." He grabbed her arm roughly. "Don't even think about backing out now." After he left, Ruby sat at her desk, trembling. She had to tell Zion about the engagement. But how could she explain that she was trapped in an arrangement that would destroy them both? The truth came out in the cruelest way possible. Zion had planned a surprise. He arrived at her office with a bouquet of her favorite flowers, ready to take her to dinner. But instead of finding Ruby, he found her secretary hanging wedding invitations. "Oh, you're here for Miss Okafor's wedding invitations," the secretary asked cheerfully. "She's marrying Mr. Adebayo next week. Such a lovely couple." Zion felt like he'd been struck by lightning. The flowers fell from his hands. When Ruby returned from her meeting, she found Zion waiting in her office, his face a mask of pain and betrayal. "Were you going to tell me?" he asked quietly. "Zion, I can explain." "Explain what?" "That while I was falling in love with you, you were planning to marry another man?" His voice cracked. "Was I just entertainment for you? A way to pass time before your real life began?" "No, Zion, please listen to me. I trusted you." Tears filled his eyes. I thought what we had was real. It is real. I love you." "Then why are you marrying him?" Ruby broke down completely. Through her sobs, she told him everything. The family pressure, the threats, the fear of being alone forever. "So you chose money and status over love," Zion said, his voice hollow. "I chose survival. You don't understand what it's like to be me, Zion. To have everyone look at you with disgust, to have your own family see you as a burden." She was crying so hard she could barely speak. "At least with Chidi, I won't be alone." "You'll be more alone with him than you ever were without him." Zion moved toward the door. "And you'll have thrown away the only person who ever loved you for who you truly are." He left, and Ruby felt her heart shatter into a million pieces. But Zion's love was stronger than his hurt. That night, he went to her house. "I can't let you do this," he said when she answered the door. "Run away with me, Ruby. We'll start over somewhere else. I don't care about your money or your company. I just want you." For a moment, hope blazed in Ruby's chest. But then reality crashed back in. "I can't, Zion. My family would disown me. Your sister would suffer because of your association with me. Chidi's family. They're not people you cross." "Then we'll face it together. Love is worth fighting for, Ruby." Before she could answer, her phone rang. It was Chidi. "Ruby, my dear fiancé, I'm outside your house with some friends. We need to discuss your visitor." Through the window, Ruby saw 3 cars full of men. Her blood ran cold. "Zion, you have to leave. Now!" "What? Why?" "Please, just trust me. Go out the back. Don't let them see you." But it was too late. Chidi and his men were already surrounding the house. "Well, well," Chidi said as he entered uninvited, his eyes fixed on Zion. "So this is my competition. A market rat." "Chidi, please," Ruby started. "Shut up." His voice was ice. "Did you really think I wouldn't find out? Did you think you could humiliate me and my family?" Zion stepped protectively in front of Ruby. "She's done nothing wrong." "Nothing wrong?" Chidi laughed coldly. "She's been whoring around with street trash while engaged to me." "Don't you dare speak about her like that," Zion said dangerously. "Or what? You'll fight me?" Chidi gestured to his men. "Boys, I think our friend here needs to learn some manners." The attack was swift and brutal. Zion fought back, but he was outnumbered 6-1. Ruby screamed, trying to stop them, but one of Chidi's men held her back. "Stop! Please stop! I'll do anything!" she begged. "Anything?" Chidi paused the beating. Zion was on the ground, bleeding but still conscious. "Marry me tomorrow. No more delays. And if you ever see this dog again, I'll make sure he disappears permanently." "I'll marry you," Ruby whispered, her heart dying. "Just don't hurt him anymore." Chidi smiled triumphantly. "Wise choice." He kicked Zion once more. "As for you, rat, if you ever come near my wife again, you'll wish you were never born." They left Zion broken and bleeding on Ruby's floor. She rushed to him, cradling his head in her lap. "I'm so sorry," she sobbed. "I'm so sorry." Zion could barely speak through his swollen lips. "Don't marry him, please. Ruby. I have to. He'll kill you if I don't. I'd rather die than live knowing you're trapped. And I'd rather be trapped than live knowing you're dead. She kissed his forehead gently. This is the only way to keep you safe. The wedding was a nightmare dressed in silk and flowers. Ruby stood at the altar like a ghost, her spirit already dead. Chidi's smile was victorious as he slipped the ring onto her finger, a chain that bound her to a life of misery. "You may kiss the bride," the pastor announced. As Chidi's lips touched hers, Ruby felt like she was being buried alive. During the reception, her cousins whispered and giggled. Finally, someone desperate enough to marry her. Thank God, we thought she'd die an old maid. That night, in the prison that was now her marital home, Chidi made his expectations clear. "You will be the perfect wife in public," he said, pouring himself a drink. "You will smile, you will be grateful, and you will never embarrass me again." "And if I don't?" His backhand across her face was his answer. The blow reopened the wound near her blind eye. "You will, because you know what happens to people who defy me." 6 months passed like a slow death. Chidi controlled everything, her company, her money, her movements. He had fired half her employees and was running Okafor Industries into the ground with his incompetence and greed. Ruby watched helplessly as her life's work crumbled. Worse, he brought his mistresses into their home, flaunting his affairs while ensuring Ruby knew her place. She was nothing more than a trophy wife with a useful bank account. The abuse escalated. Chidi's fists became as familiar to Ruby as his cruel words. She learned to cover the bruises with makeup, to make excuses for her injuries. One night, after a particularly violent beating, Ruby lay on the bathroom floor, blood trickling from her nose. In the mirror, she saw what she had become, a broken shell of the woman who had once run a company, who had once been loved by a good man. "I should have run away with Zion," she whispered to her reflection. "I should have been brave." But now it was too late. She had heard rumors that Zion had left Lagos after the wedding. Her sacrifice had been for nothing. The rain tapped gently on the rusted tin roof as Zion stood by the window of his sister Asha's apartment, staring out into the night. It had been 3 weeks since he left Lagos. 3 weeks since he walked away from the woman who had made him believe in love again. Asha's place was modest. 2 small rooms, old but clean, tucked in a quiet corner of Ibadan where rent was manageable. Zion insisted on sleeping on the couch, even though his body ached from it. He said he preferred it. Truthfully, he just couldn't sleep well anymore. On the coffee table beside him lay the crumpled wedding invitation, Ruby Okafor and Chidi Adebayo. He hadn't been able to throw it away. "You're thinking about her again, aren't you?" Asha's soft voice broke through the silence. She stood in the doorway, holding 2 mugs of tea. "Zion, you haven't eaten all day." He gave a small, tired smile. "I'm okay. Just remembering." He took the mug but didn't drink. Asha sat beside him, watching his face closely. "She broke your heart?" "No," he said quietly. "Life broke her first. I was just collateral damage." Asha said nothing. She knew her brother. He loved deeply, completely, and when he hurt in silence. "I thought I could be enough for her," Zion continued. "But I didn't understand how trapped she really was. I left because I had no other choice." "You did the right thing," Asha said gently. "You couldn't fight a war she wasn't ready to win." Zion nodded, but the ache didn't fade. Days passed slowly in Ibadan. Zion took up freelance tailoring jobs to help cover the rent, while Asha focused on her internship at the local clinic. He helped repair old machines in a tailor's workshop and worked on his sketches at night, designs he no longer had the heart to pitch. But every time he ran his fingers over fabric, he saw her smile, the way she looked at his drawings like they were magic, the way she once told him, "Every pattern you draw feels like it's telling my story." He missed her voice the most, soft, steady, even when she was scared. One evening, as he packed up his work, Asha sat beside him with quiet conviction. "Zion. Maybe one day she'll find her way back. Maybe when she's free." Zion looked down at his hands. "And if she doesn't? Then you still loved her the way every woman deserves to be loved, fully. And that's something no one can take from you." He didn't respond. But that night, he finally folded the wedding invitation in half and tucked it away inside his sketchbook. Not to forget her, but to wait, with hope and heartbreak. My besties, if your heart is still aching for Ruby and Zion and you need to know what happens next in their love story, type Part 2 in the comments if you're ready for the next chapter. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss when Part 2 drops, because what's coming will break you and heal you.